impacting lives, building leaders all around the world. Let us keep our dreams alive, cause tomorrow's gonna be a better day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Captain Truth Podcast Network. Today, we are bringing you another interesting episode, and the title of this episode is Justice in Action, a Youth Vision from Egypt to the MENA region. Welcome to this inspiring episode of the Capital Podcast, where we elevate the vision of young leaders shaping the world. Today's guest is someone whose work is deeply rooted in justice, peace, and youth empowerment in one of the most dynamic regions of the world, the MENA region. Please welcome Khaled Emam, a distinguished human rights lawyer from Egypt, the founder and executive director of the Arab Leadership Institute, and a current visiting fellow at Harvard University's Carr Center for Human Rights Policy. Let's explore his journey, the challenges faced by the youth in the region, and the powerful link between justice and peace building. Welcome, Khaled Emam, to this podcast episode. So, my very first question to you is, Khalid, take us back to your early days in Egypt. What inspired your journey into human rights law?
Thank you so much, Nabila. Thank you for having me here. Yes, so if I go back where I grew up, which is in the south part of Egypt, a beautiful region known of its very kind and generous people. When I was born in Upper Egypt, my village and all the villages around struggled with something we call it thar, or family revenge, where basically one family kill a member of another family, and then the second family has to respond and kill one from the first family, and then it goes in this circle without an end. So violence was so present in my early age, at least from till I was 9 years old or so. Most of the stories and the discussion was about that, was about killings and which family or a tribe is better than the other one. And when I was 8 years old, another thing happened that was more global, which caught my attention. And I think it changed my life, which was the war in Iraq in 2003, when a US led coalition invaded Iraq in March of 2003. As a kid watching the TV, watching the horrors of air jets bombing Iraq and people dying from everywhere, women being displaced, I keep asking all the question that a kid might ask, which was, why this is happening? Why there is no one to punish those bad people? Why there's no any form of accountability? Why those people can do anything they want? And I meant here the very powerful states back then. My sister, who was the first person in our village who made it to law school, gave me some answers from her legal box, which is about the International Court of Justice, the UN Charter, the International Criminal Court. So her answer was that yes, we have a text, but it's not necessarily put into practice because those who are leading the war are very powerful states, and they decide when to start the war and when to end the war. And from there, I became very interested in justice work at two levels. This very local village, the very local level, I mean, and like the one in my village and all other villages and communities around the MENA region, and the global one, the global justice, that the question of how can we have strong justice institutions at the global level that can punish those who commit crimes of aggressions and atrocities anywhere, regardless of if they were small or big, rich or poor, powerful or not. So that's what got me interested in the area of justice.
Wow, that is great. Like I believe like it is most inspiring story as well as like most saddened as well, because I can imagine that how your childhood was. And one of the good thing you have mentioned that was like very powerful when you said that I just got inspired by my sister's journey, and she was the first like attaining high school degree as well in your village. So hats off to this journey, of course. And thank you very much for being so brave and being so open about this discussion as well, and choosing this field. Of course, we need a lot of right people in this field. So let me just ask you, like, what are some of the most pressing challenges young people in Egypt and the broader MENA region face today, like socially, economically, or politically? I understand, like, it is a very wide question. So, but if you can cover this.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, let me use this question to do a little bit of a follow up on the previous question, which is the story of my sister. As you heard, my sister inspired me a lot. I think she changed my life. She's the one who empowered me and gave me this fire to work in this field. But unfortunately, my sister didn't get the chance or the opportunity to continue her dream and being this very successful lawyer or a legal advisor because of societal norms back home. So that's a challenge that I was not prepared to talk about, but I think it's absolutely worth speaking out about, which is the societal norms that prevent almost half of the society from achieving their full potential, which is women and girls, especially where I came from, the south part of Egypt, where we still have very traditional norms and specific way of how the society look to women. I think it's much better now than when I was a child, about more than 20 years ago or 25 years ago, but still so much work need to be done in this area of equal opportunities for everyone, especially girls and women that struggled a lot with the history of injustice and this gap in society that did not allow them to get the same access to education, same access to jobs, or same access to even public spaces. That's just one from my own little family. And then the question at large about the MENA region, as you might know, MENA region has the largest high youth population in the world. In some countries, youth population goes to 60 or 70%. So it's a massive percentage of youth in the region. But on the other side, if you look at employment, for example, the MENA region has the lowest employment rate in the world. So it's both the highest and the lowest, the highest in terms of numbers, the demography, and the lowest in terms of employment opportunities. So we're talking about almost one of each three Arab youth is employed. That's a big challenge there. Second challenge that of course, is one of the main causes of the Arab Spring and late 2010, 2011 is youth participation in decision making. When you have this largest part of society are young people with so much of energy and passion and dreams. However, they are not yet representatives in government institutions and parliament and local governments. It is a massive challenge because then youth don't really see themselves as part of the decision making in their countries. And that's create a massive gap, generational gap between the old generation and younger generation, between youth and their governments, and this must be addressed or we will face the consequences. The third challenge, in my opinion, when it comes to youth and the region, as especially the younger one, education in the region, and in most countries is still below the world standards. And as a young man, if you are not from the elite, if you are not rich, if your family cannot afford to send you to a private school, a private university, then your chance in getting high quality education that you deserve is very low. And this, of course, again, would affect the cycle we are talking about, which is um, then having high quality jobs, or quality jobs, or dignity jobs. So I want to summarize. I think employment is super high. Um, uh, Youth participation in politics is super low. Institutions is not yet inclusive for the largest part of the population, which is youth. Educational opportunities, um, it's not available in high quality, or and at least with the standards or the average in the world, to most of youth in the region.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like highlighting these important issues you just have mentioned, like employment, unemployment, and the rate of education. And also, as we can see the statistics globally, like in underdeveloping countries, almost 3 out of 5 children does not have access to primary education, even. So this is, of course, a very, very devastating situation in a broader frame if we discuss education and unemployment. And you just said that, like MENA region, like they have largest population of youth, and of course they have the. It means that they have the highest level of potential of youth globally participating in different social and economic affairs if given equal, chance and opportunities. So I could totally relate while coming from an underdeveloping country as well. So, uh, like connecting back to our question, like socially and politically and economically, we have been discussing these issues. How do geography and political history shape the role and expectations of youth in Egypt compared to other MENA countries? Like, how would you like to rate your country?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Okay, demography and geography and politics. Egypt, my country, of course, has it's one of the oldest civilizations in the world. It has a huge history where this country shaped the decision making in a very important part of the world, and we still carry this history with us right now. Egyptians are very proud people. They're very proud of their history and their ancestors. But maybe the challenge comes with that is that this massive gap between what we were in the past and how this country was, and the current reality we live in. And as someone who work in leadership, maybe society sometimes need to lay the past to rest and then think about its reality and its future. Because again, keeping looking about the past, where the country was rich and huge, and people build pyramids, and the historical, all these historical sites in Egypt, and we look at now where unfortunately a massive portion of youth are losing hope in their country, and they are trying to find any way by any means to leave their country to another countries, and thousands of people cross the Mediterranean Sea, facing death to just find a better job opportunity on the other side in Europe. It's a challenge. So this is how I see this connection between history and geography, and that's what makes Egypt unique compared to maybe other countries in the region, which is uh, relatively new as a states in its modern definition.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like in the MENA region, Egypt is one of the, oldest, or you can say like ancient country. I just want to recall five quick facts about Egypt, like for my audience as well. Like the earliest recorded peace treaty was made in Egypt. Number two, Egyptian men and women both wore makeup and perfume. Number three, Egyptian workers organized the first labor strike recorded in history. And number five, Egyptian workers had the first recorded healthcare plan. So, do tell me if one of these facts is wrong.
Thank you for bringing them. Very interesting. Some of them I hear for the first time, but I'm not surprised. Again, this country and its people had incredible history and experience. And maybe one another fact that Egypt went through hundreds of years of colonization and occupation, but always resisted, and it was not impacted as many other countries when it comes to changing its culture norms or a language or other things.
Yes, of course, as we are talking about one of the oldest, civilized country in the world. So I just want to know, like, can you talk about how civic spaces has evolved for the youth in the MENA region? Are there avenues for expression, leadership, or protest, like in this modern world?
Um, and that's a very important question. So MENA region, because of its history with colonization and occupation, and the issue of Palestine, was not fortunately a stable region for many decades, and that affected or impacted the way that people can enjoy or could enjoy civic spaces. Because when you are in a war, then the only language of war speaks, and that was the case for many decades. Speaking since the French and the British mandate ended in the 30s and 40s until um, the 70s and maybe the 80s. So it was not really stability in the region. So most of the region did not experience um, a well connection democracies. And then 80s and 90s, people, when the region became a bit more stable, young people and I think the society in general started to be more educated and think about ways where they can practice their civic spaces, participate in politics. And also people were very frustrated by the way that their countries were managed, the 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 below average effectiveness of government institutions, the high or wide speed of corruption in public institutions. And that resulted in what we call it the Arab Spring, or the events of 2010 to 2011, where people took out the streets in Tunisia and Egypt and Libya and Bahrain and in Iraq and Lebanon and many other countries, calling for freedom, um, uh, democracy, dignity, equality and justice, etc. These events, um, since you're asking about civic space in the region, so these events, of course, in many cases, not all of them, so in some cases, like Egypt and Tunisia, it resulted in a massive increase of civic spaces and freedom in these countries. But in others like Libya and Syria, unfortunately, it was more of tragedy where countries ended in civil wars and conflict that they still struggle with till today. Uh, so generally speaking, in the region, yes, maybe we got more um, more civic spaces, more increase of the way that people speak about public affairs, but also we don't want to forget the negative outcome of these events, which has led to a massive stabilization and conflict and civil wars in the region. So now, because of these results, that was mostly negative, unfortunately, the region going through a new era of less civic spaces, less participation, less freedom, less free media. I I could understand some of these limitations, but what we need is we need a roadmap for when and how we will build the institutions that allow people to express their opinion, to participate in politics, to be a decision makers, not a consumers, not a client, and the business language.
Yeah, that is a very, great answer. I can pick some of the, follow-up remarks in your recent answer when you said that, of course, now Egypt has more expression of freedom and expression of, public speaking as well among youth. But you said it very well. Like sometimes this freedom of expression and public speaking can lead, massive, uh, distrust among the youth as well. Like we can see the MENA, one of your neighboring, countries which are under war, and there is no stability in that country. And of course, youth are the one whom are suffering a lot because youth are the future of any country because they have the potential to change their country's um, situation if they participate equally into it. And you also said it very right, like. For expressing your freedom and public speaking, one must have a roadmap and a direction to build, good institutions. I totally, agree with that. And this is a very, thoughtful and powerful answer. I would totally appreciate. So let's uh, go into our second, segment, which would, of course, relate uh, that your work into the Justice Card, like you founded Justice Card to empower youth across MENA. So we are like very eager to know about it. That what is the story behind this initiative and what change you hope to bring through this initiative in the future.
Absolutely. But also, Nabila, if you allow me, I just want to follow up on your last point before speaking about Justice Call. I
Sure.
think what you're saying is super interesting. And I don't think Egypt now has increased civic space. I think Egypt is struggling with civic spaces. So what I meant that Egypt back in 2011, 2012 got a great amount of civic spaces. But as you said, the that the consequences of that we ended up in a instability and a massive polarization. So I spoke a lot today about the governmental part and this decision makers part, but also building on your comment, I must say that yes, youth and activists like myself need to look at the whole system change, not only to, you know, our own bubble of like we call for freedom, we call for justice. We need to be always aware of the consequences of such movements. And as you said, we need to have a roadmap. I think revolution leaders or people or youth, they always know how to start a movement, but they are not good enough on how to end when we realize that no, now we must end and maybe try and test different strategies. And some of these strategies sometimes is that you need to have a dialogue with those in power because you can't really change everything with protest. And as someone who protested a lot, I must say that I came to realize that protest has a very limited ability to make a change. So really want to make a big change, positive change, changing institutions. So I think it could be good to mobilize people, to create a strong sense of us, to bring people attentions to a tough issues facing their countries. But that should be the way we look at the protest and we manage expectations. And we know that there is much more of hard work needs to be done if we want to really make positive change. And that change, it's not just through protesting, sometimes through dialogue, non-profits, businesses, task forces, and I will mention dialogue again, because this is the only way that you can maybe understand the others and know what's going on, and the dynamics outside of your own community, which may be the youth in in this case, but also get all stakeholders to make some compromisations and reach consensus on what the future is. This is something I really wanted to mention, because I think we need also to reflect about our part as the young people. What did we do well? What did we do wrong? And then how can we learn from our mistakes and be always open to learn from others and talk to others, even if we completely disagree with them, even if we think that they don't deserve what they have in terms of maybe space and political decision making. Now, yes, let me answer your question about Justice Call. So, Justice Call, it is a call for justice. So it has the sense of youth activism of let's put our voices together and work collectively to address the issue of justice. How do we do that? Justice Call, our mission is very simple. We say we protect, connect, and empower. So we work with youth and youth groups, organizations that led by young people, to make sure that they are protected, they know their rights, legal-wise, digital-wise, and that they are empowered, not just by training, but also financial resources, that they have the financial resources they need to make the positive change they want. And third, connect, that they are connected to one another across the region, not in one country, that people from Egypt are connected with people from Yemen, to people from Syria are connected to people from Sudan, and they are learning from each other success and failures as well, because failures is something very important to learn from. So this is the connect part, and the connect part is super important because Justice Call proudly manage 3 regional networks in the region. The regional network on atrocities prevention, the regional coalition for global justice, and the MENA coalition on youth, peace, and security, which has like more than 200 members across the MENA region. So that's the story and the work of Justice Call. Justice Call been doing this for the past 5-6 years, organizing regional gatherings and across the Middle East to connect young people with one another, funding dozens of youth initiatives in Sudan, in partnership with some UN agencies and other donors to support organizations that work directly with community, that use innovative ways like arts and music to connect people and give them hope. And we are proudly working with a great network of INGOs and donors and UN agencies and government to make sure that we are not doing it alone, because no one can do it alone.
Wow, that is totally, great initiative and like the mission of it, connect, empower, protect it, right? And
Yeah.
also you have mentioned that this, initiative has been working across the MENA region, like any youth from other countries like Syria, Sudan, Iraq. And how does Justice Call deal with the people, especially under war or conflict zone countries? Do you want to share any experience, any of your client, or maybe we can say like any of your colleagues from war zone area, and how does Justice Call been empowering them? Any, real time example you would like to quote?
We are conflicted affected countries are our main focus. Conflict and wars in the region took many lives and must stop. We believe that we need to work with these communities, that they are in a massive needs, they are in most needs, and we believe that the way we should do it when the international order doesn't work, where the UN cannot uh, stop these wars for many reasons that maybe it will take hours to talk about. We believe that what we should do is working directly with youth organizations that are on the ground with these communities, facing this conflict together. And I can give lots of practical examples, and we are so proud of our partner and member, the Social Development Forum in Gaza, which is under this war, under the non-stop bombing by the Israeli army. They still work to provide mental health support to kids in Gaza, education to girls in Gaza, uh, provide sometimes when situation allows some food and basic health tools or medical tools to people who are in most needs. And the young people there, the leaders of the Social Development Forum, again, are doing this despite the massive risk they face every day and the great loss that every one of them is facing. And they already, some of them lost family members, lost colleagues, lost beloved ones, and they're still doing it. And then I can give example of from Sudan, our partner in Sudan, which is Adila for culture and arts, which is one of the largest youth networks in the country. They still work in Sudan using very innovative ways to support civic spaces and youth organization in Sudan. One of their work is this idea of community kitchen, where they fund the community kitchen, they bring foods, and they allow women from Sudan to come and cook and talk and share and heal together. So again, there's dozens of examples that we can talk about today, but I'm so proud of our partners' work, and I give them full credit for it. And our our mission is just to explore ways where we can support them and make sure that they have the resources and the support, and make sure that their voices is here at the international level as well.
Thank you very much, Khalid, for being so, courageous to speak openly about your initiative, as well as quoting these real-time examples, and also sharing with us some of the, examples coming from conflict zone area as well. We are really proud of you and your team, because we do understand in this modern world today, speaking for justice is becoming very difficult. And I can understand while you are serving in this field, how difficult it can be for you as well sometimes. Also, you have stated one of the thing which which just got into my mind, that was like when you said that we work with youth-led organizations on ground, and even in a state where UN is not able to stop the war. So I believe such community-led initiatives are more powerful, and they are leaving a great impact in this world where even the international recognized organizations are not able to stop the injustice. I was about to come into this question. You have worked with the UN and other international bodies, as you have mentioned in your portfolio as well. But there's also a lot of criticism on UN as well nowadays on the social media. As you can see, like there is a war, there is a conflict ongoing between Israel and Palestine. And now, because youth are more familiar, they are more aware, and they are using the power of social media, and now they don't even trust UN. We just want to know about your experience with the UN and other international bodies, and how it can sometimes become difficult for you as well as an, human right lawyer, while standing at these platforms, speaking about the justice and truth, and defending the youth from MENA region as well, and also from conflict zone areas as well. Have you ever faced any, difficulties? What is your, stance and your experience while working with these international organizations in a broader range?
Yeah, thank you for this question, Nabila. And I know that as an international law practitioner and many other or like me, people who are interested and believe in international law are quite disappointed about uh, the the rule-based order right now and the the amount of authority that is given to the UN to influence international conflict. But I must start with saying that I'm also so proud of some UN agencies that working on the ground, like UN UNRWA in Gaza, that lost over 200 of its staff members because they were just doing their jobs, providing basic services and being with the community in Gaza. UNRWA lost this massive number of people, but also it's under attacks from many countries, facing funding cuts and criticism and investigations, etc., which is non-stop. So I'm very proud of what those individuals and organizations is doing there. But our disappointments on the other side comes from the little ability that the organization has to stop wars. And that's, of course, very complex. It's not, can't give an easy answers because the UN, you can look at the UN as a club of member states. So the amount of authority is the organization has depends on how much authority and resources those members are giving to this country. So we are disappointed by the UN, but we could be also disappointed about our own countries and to what extent our country is supporting the UN to do its mission in maintaining peace and security. So, of course, UN Security Council is a massive failure of not being able to pass very important resolutions. And when it did pass some resolution, it wasn't able to enforce these resolutions. So an urgent reform for the UN Security Council is needed. The good news that there is um, a growing recognition for this need now. I think everyone in the UN and outside the UN realize that the system doesn't fit the 21st century and we need to change it. The system of veto power, the system of an equal membership where certain countries have so much to say and other countries have very little to say um, has to change. But also bureaucracy in the organization. You asked me about what the biggest challenge in the UN and other international organization. I think the biggest challenge that in many cases these organizations are very disconnected from the community level. And I mean by that you're so much centered in the west part of this world for many reasons, and you have some resources, very limited resources, but when you really go to the ground, the community sharing these resources is very little because you have huge offices, massive number of staff. The internal environment in the organization does not allow for much of innovations. and leadership for its members. So it's very, very hierarchical. And again, also one of the reasons that it's member state organization. But this must be fixed. That's why very recently and published a paper um, named called Reimagining the Global Order, where I talk about some of these internal issues. What's happening in the system from inside out? What needs to change? And I mentioned there this idea of the lack of holding environment. Holding environment mean an environment that can allow people to make mistakes, to speak their minds inside the UN system, to speak their minds, to innovate, to take ownership of the projects they works on. And they need to create a shared identity for the UN. Because it's not enough that I go to the UN, I work for the UN as an Egyptian, and I always have my identity as Egyptian much stronger than my UN identity. So there is a need of creating a strong sense of us within the organization for people to be part of this global movement and fully work as international civil servants who believe in universal human rights for everyone, everywhere.
Thank you very much, Khalid, for such a thoughtful, answers to these questions. And also, you have mentioned that you have recently been publishing one of your paperwork, which is of course relevant to your work in the field of justice. So, if you could mention if our audience would like to read this paper, is it available like for the public to read as well somewhere?
Yes, the paper will be available in the next 2 days or so. So you can just Google like reimagining the global order in times of uncertainty. And I would be also happy to share the link with you on the Kickle program.
Sure, why not? We are also glad to share this with our audience as well. And we would like to encourage everyone to read this paper. This will be, releasing out very soon. So congratulations to you for this work as well. Now, just very relevant question to the previous context. I would like to ask, can youth really lead peace building efforts in contexts where they are not part of formal decision making processes? How have you seen them to do it? And also, in your view, what is the connection between democratic governance and peace building?
Great question. Let me answer the first part. Of course, yes. Even if youth are not part of formal peace process or formal decision-making process, they can build peace. And I already mentioned lots of examples from Sudan and Palestine and Gaza. Those organizations are building peace because they work with ordinary people. They work in the front lines and they provide the basic needs for people who are in most needs. And also one of our partners in Yemen did a very crucial youth-led mediation between two armed groups and their cities to allow citizens to access water resources. So the water tank was closed maybe for years due to the conflict in Yemen, and this youth organization leveraged its legitimacy and credibility as active youth group in their town, and they mediated this discussion between two groups, and that allowed the society to access something, of course, critically important, which is clean water. So, of course, youth can do that. That's why we believe in youth-led peace process, and we always say, don't wait to be included in the formal process. Create your own process, and then invite whoever you think fits this process. Like we encourage our youth partners to be always proactive and don't wait. Do the initiative, organize the event, organize the dialogue, and invite who you think will be helpful for your work. And then in your second part, the relation between, I think you mentioned governance and peace building, right? If I'm correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of evidence internationally that where you have democratic uh, governments and good accountability, countries are less likely to go to war. And lots of evidence support that. But also, you can think about it in a very basic level. Where you have a good governance means you have a good team, means you have good advisors, means you have people with quality who can look into these complex issues and take informed decisions, define what the problems are and what scenarios could be, and try to take the best decision that serves the people. On the other side, where you don't have a good governance or and the effectiveness the effectiveness of these political bodies or public institutions is quite low because it's always like a one-man show who decides everything, who define what the problem is and what the solutions are, and that's dangerous for any human being. We uh, we uh, we all need to consult someone. We all need to hear diverse opinions on the issues matters. Because if we just leave it to ourselves and we think that we own the truth, this is a very dangerous path. And many countries around the world, because of such approach, and will involve in non-ending conflicts that talk hundreds, but actually millions of lives through history. So the connection between good governance and peace building is absolutely very strong. Because in one example, when you have a good governance, you have people who are having a vision, mission, again, are able to define the problem. They know that they are serving the public and they know what the public needs, what the people needs, and their aim is to serve them. When you don't have such system and you have a corrupted institutions or institution that's uh, 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 not accountable, not open, not effective, then uh, people or leaders often think about themselves, how people perceive me, how people see me, uh, how each of my decision gonna influence the public opinion, not necessarily will serve how it will serve the people.
Yeah, very true. Like people always want welfare, development, and good governance as long as they are delivering. People are with them, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a great, conversation throughout, speaking about justice, your personal story, and then also the governance and the peace building. So, on a very lighter note, uh, we just want Tactile podcast platform is also an opportunity where different youth from different countries does come and speak about their country situation. They promote and encourage their initiatives, and also if there are some myths created about some of certain countries or certain youth globally, we also give them this opportunity. They can eradicate, or they can talk about these misconceptions. So I just wanted to know, like, from your work, what are the biggest misconceptions the world has about MENA youth and their potential for leadership? Like, I don't have any myths because I can see one of the strong person speaking in this podcast, Khaled Emam, and of course, he's one of the role model for the MENA region as well.
I think the biggest misconception is an internal misconception in the region itself, where many stakeholders believe that youth are just the troublemakers. We want to control them. We want to make sure we want to serve them, but also want to make sure that they are not out of control. Because again, also the history of the region, especially the what happened a decade ago during the Arab Spring, where most of the protests and the uprising were was led by young people. So the biggest misconception that again those people are troublemakers, but also that they lack experience. That's the story that I hear in every single day when we call for including or giving more responsibilities to young people, having more young people in governments and decision making. The answer that we often hear is that no, they lack experience. Let them wait till they are more adults and, and, and and then they can think about being part of the decision making, and that's a massive misconception. And that's why we need a serious intergenerational dialogue between these two generations, because we have such a strong generational gap to talk about how we perceive one another in this region, how youth perceive the older generation and those in power, and how the older generation perceive and look at young people. Young people, they are not lacking experience, they are not lacking knowledge. Young people, many young people in our region, they are skillful. They have so much energy and commitment to serve their countries, and we need to leverage this energy and commitment to serve everyone in the MENA region.
Yeah, very true. Like sometimes the internal system and the lack of good governance does also play a crucial role in demotivating the youth, and youth having not trust in their skills and capabilities. Yeah, that is like very much true. um, Thank you once again, being so bold and courageous while speaking about these issues as well. And thank you for, encouraging and inspiring your youth as a role model as well. That is a great example, because we can set this as an example. And I'm sure like a lot of people would have already been inspired by you, by your work, and also by your initiatives, and they might have become a part with you as well. So once again, congratulations for this initiative, because I truly, believe that these community lead projects have greater impact in the world than any other than anything in this world. So let's talk about some of your global influence and personal growth. You have also worked and taught at Harvard and advised global actors. How do these experiences shape your local work back home and in the regions?
Yeah, thank you, Nabila, for your kind words. And for your question, I think my biggest learning from Harvard that solutions must be locally led. If we really want to solve, we need to go back to where the problems are. We can't live in fancy offices here and in the West and think that research alone will solve problems in Africa or the Middle East. And that was one of my big takeaways, and that's how this informed my work in the region, that I take all the things I'm learning here and try to apply them in the region. And our biggest initiative right now, as mentioned before, is building an Arab Leadership Institute that will provide world-class leadership education for uh, people in the public sectors in the MENA region, like nonprofit and government officials, with focus on how can we develop organizations and institutions in the region to be more effective, more accountable, more impact driven, and that can serve the people well.
That is great. And also, there's a follow up question. Have you seen a shift in how Western countries engage with MENA youth voices in recent years? Because, of course, you are working internationally as well.
Um, Good question. I don't have data on that, but definitely we have seen growing interest, especially from the EU, to work with young people in the Middle East. So there is very interesting projects, exchange programs, and between Europe and the Middle East, lots of educational programs. Um, But maybe one thing I must say is very strong obstacle. It's just this idea of the right of mobility. You have opportunities for youth. You want to engage youth in the MENA region, but you only offer opportunities for those who speaks good English. And that's not the case for the absolute majority of young people in the region. So these projects and opportunities, unfortunately, become very limited because it's only a specific group of young people who are, being present or able to access these opportunities, and maybe most of them. And we have lots of, repetitives where you see the same group and every single opportunity. So that really limit the effectiveness and impact of these programs when it comes to targeting youth in the MENA region. The other obstacle, which is also quite important, is visa. Getting a visa if you're a Syrian or a Sudanese or Egyptian and you want to get visa to study in Europe or participate in some of these exchange programs. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, and it really prevents many young people from accessing opportunities that they deserve, and it can really change their lives.
Yeah, like, wow, thank you very much for highlighting one of the, main issue happening in this world regarding the issuance of visa to either refugees or to youth coming from, conflict zone areas. This is very important. And I believe it is another topic of discussion which should be highlighted like separately and should have a group of discussion on it as well. Thank you very much. I totally, agree with this. Uh, Thank you, Khalid, once again for being so courageous, open mindedness of yours while speaking about justice, your personal story, and also your initiative, which is, of course, inclusively, playing a crucial role in changing the lives of youth across the MENA and also in conflict zone areas as well. So this is a very great and strong work, which should be, uh, running with the same energy and with other different partners as well. It should be, growing day by day. Our prayers and best wishes are with you. While we are closing this podcast episode, we have our, last segment, which is closing reflections, of course. So I have three quick questions for you as in closing reflections. So, number one is if you could send one message to young people across the MENA region who feel hopeless or disconnected, what would it be?
Good question. My message will be like, I feel you. I'm one of this youth, and I can understand how it feels helpless and hopeless and disappointed about what's happening in our region and in the world right now, especially given the situation in Palestine. But my message to them that never give up. We need to work. We need to leverage with whatever amount of resources we have to bring our aspiration to reality. Losing hope is the most dangerous thing that can face a human being. So we need to always keep hope and know that things will change if we do our part, if we learn more, read more, connect more with others, don't work in silence, and believe that we can make a change.
Okay, number two, closing reflection. What is next for you and Justice Call? How can our audience follow or support your work?
Thank you, Nabila. What next for Justice Call? Justice Call now is working to institutionalize its regional networks in the region and have more a strong organization that works long term. So we're developing lots of partnerships with our partners and in Europe and elsewhere. And with that will comes lots of opportunities for young people in our region. And as I mentioned before, we are also launching the Arab Leadership Institute, which will use and leverage high quality education from institutions like Harvard, MIT, and make it available and accessible for young people. So now they can follow the Arab Leadership Institute on social media like Instagram and LinkedIn, and check our website. Lots of opportunities will be there. And also lots of way for people who are from the region or not from the region to get involved, volunteer, support, even work and the new institute.
Yeah, that is great. And to our audience, please do follow Justice Call on different social media as well. So, number 3, closing reflection. Finally, what gives you hope today?
What gives me hope is making impact. Whenever I work with people and on the ground, and I see the impact they are making on people's lives, and I realize that maybe I'm contributing very little to that. That's what gives me hope to wake up the second day in the morning and be motivated to continue this work and do more of this work, despite the global situation right now.
Wow, that is great. Like your hope is making an impact. A new day, a new chapter. That is great. Once again, congratulations for your paperwork. Also, hats off for your initiative, Call for Justice, and also to your team as well. We have so many prayers and best wishes for you and your initiative, and we truly want to see it grow day by day. Thank you, Khalid, for bringing clarity, vision, and justice into this conversation. Your work is a powerful reminder that when youth lead, societies shift. To our listeners, stay inspired, stay active, follow Khalid's work at Justice Call, and continue tuning into the Tactile Podcast, where young voices shape global change. Your host, signing off for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. Goodbye.